Okay, without further ado, I think we should hear the new item first. Now, ordinarily, as I explained, we would do this in the audit committee meeting and then bring it to the full board, but that's okay. We have our audit committee chair, Gary Reshevsky, right here. Gary, if you'll take this under your wing and move it forward, please.
Sure. I think we have some people here from the museum. Are you guys all from the museum? Okay, great. Basically, you're requesting the remaining balance of the funding that was allocated for the Miami Art Museum and the Homeland Defense bond. No, that's not the balance?
No, it's not the balance. It was a total of $3.5 million.
Okay. So they're asking for $2 million.
Right.
And they've already received $700,000 in the past. And they've provided us with a budget and a contract attached. This was mailed out to the board last weekend. And does anyone have any questions about the package that we have, that we received? Did everyone have an opportunity to review it?
I think you made a comment on the contract.
Well, yeah, if I could ask someone who's familiar with the budget, one comment, I actually had two comments. The first was the contract I thought was pretty impressive. I don't know, did the city draft? Who drafted that contract?
For the previous grant application?
I'm sorry, sir. I need your name for the record, please.
Riley, Director of the Miami Art Museum.
It's the draft project cooperative agreement. Project cooperative agreement in Miami Art Museum.
By the city.
I thought it was a very well drafted agreement from the standpoint of the city being able to monitor where the money was going, that it was being used for capital projects, and that it would be drawn down over a period of time for that funding, and what items could not be used for it, such as miscellaneous types of things that really are not capital related. The one thing I did notice on the executive summary of the total project cost billing was that the architects, engineers, and consulting fees were quite significant, and I would expect them to be for a project like this. But you estimated $74 million for hard construction, and then you had a $19 million, $764,000 number for the consulting fees, architect, engineering fees. If I understood that right, that's about 27% of the budget.
That's as with every good budget, it's every conceivable consultant fee that we could come up with, from elevators, which may be covered by the elevator manufacturer, to a LEEDs rating if we try to go for a green building, et cetera, et cetera. My goal as director is not to spend that much money. I would like more of that money to go into the hard costs. But in this fiscal year, we're only hitting the tip of the iceberg in terms of the principal consultants. That other rank of consultants, like I said, if we don't need to spend that money, we never will.
How serious is the number that you've got here, this $74 million number? Are you far enough along to really say that this is a pretty firm number?
Well, that number is the equivalent of the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston escalated up to 2008 numbers. In other words, that building in Houston, which if you've seen it, it's a fairly fine building, limestone, architectural metals, very high quality building. So we're happy with that. We're right now at the end of what's called concept design phase. This is actually a pre-phase that we added on. Instead of the architect and all the principal consultants starting at once, which is typical schematic design, we've added on this small 5-month pre-concept design, we're calling it. It's only the architect working with us and a couple of consultants at the very minimum. So we found ourselves at this point, at the beginning of the real project, to have a scheme that we think has legs, shall we say, and it's actually been estimated by a specialist whose specialty is estimating projects in the very early stage of the game. We were trying to hit $74 million. He's estimating $90 million, but it includes the parking, which the $72 million doesn't, and a 25% contingency. So we believe, at a very early stage, we're going down a road that in a normal architectural process you can control the cost on all the way.
And what's your timeline in terms of bringing this museum out?
We would very much like to build the building and open it to the public in 2011. This means we have to finish it in late 2010 or early 2011. We have been saying 2010. Prudence would suggest that we should slow down a little bit and accept some of the realities on the ground. Even to meet a 2011 opening, though, we need to break ground in 2008 with the parking level design ready to go and the two museums above, the package going out no more than 6 months after we break ground. But we would like to see the ground broken, groundwork being done second quarter 2008.
Okay. I would, on behalf of the Audit Committee, I'd recommend the program, but I'd open it up to our board members if they've got any questions.
I have a question. And I think that I have seen a lot of this, and I've been a consultant myself. I used to be an economic consultant. But I see that what I'm reading here in your budget, there's a bunch of consulting fees, including lighting consultant. It's another one for food service consultant, and other types of consultant, digital system, architectural conservation probes. Does not the architectural company and the engineers, once you contract them, and in their services and their fees, are not all of this included?
Well, lighting, like I said, I don't want to spend every...
Well, excuse me,
Yeah.
because excuse my ignorance about building a museum or building one of those buildings that you built here. But if I'm going to build a house or a building, an apartment building, any type of building, an office building, once I hire my architect and I hire my engineers, all the costs for them, for the design and advise where the light are going to go, or how the lighting has to go, or how the plumbing is going to go, is included.
Yeah, but actually, in most cases it is. In the terms of a museum, you always have a lighting designer who specializes in that kind of lighting.
And how about food? You need...
Well, what's happened is, and I would rather not spend, as I said, I would rather not spend $19 million on consultants. I would rather save as much of that as possible, but we're trying to, not wind up like some recent projects where there's no budget money available in case we need it. But what's happened in museums, and I don't necessarily approve of it, is the emphasis on the restaurants has become huge.
But can you go to McDonald's and say, hey, listen, they know better than anybody else, and you don't have to pay $100,000?
Well, more and more, there's a pressure on museums to have these very special restaurants.
Then go to Outback.
To go where?
Go Outback to any other restaurant. If you don't want a McDonald's there or a Burger King, if you want a restaurant that is upper class, a better restaurant or whatever, you can go and bring them Outback, and you don't have to spend $100,000 to tax people's money.
Well, like I said, we would prefer
They'd be more than glad to do all the research and all the study in order for them to have the concession there.
Yeah, but if we're going to pay $1 million for the fitting out a very fancy restaurant, we're at risk, and it's the taxpayers' money that's at risk.
No, taxpayers' money is to pay the consultant for somebody that is going to come and do business in it. That's a waste of taxpayers' money.
Well, if you accept your advice from someone you're doing business with, they're giving you advice that's in their interest.
Oh, come on.
And I just go back to what I said to Chairman Rusevsky. This is not a plan for spending money. This is a budget to make sure if we have need for a certain consultant, the money's there.